What's up, y'all? GoofyRhexxi here, and hope everybody is doing well. And I want to talk about this subject today that might be a little controversial. I'm gonna warn you right now, and it is why I don't think that, or why I think that beginner teams don't matter. I know it's controversial, but the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because I feel as if though a lot of content creators, a lot of players, by the way, myself, I am included in that list because I used to really talk about beginner teams and focusing on beginner teams. But I think that there's been a lot of emphasis has been focused on investing into beginner teams. And some of it, of course, includes, of course, investing into beginner teams or the characters that are going to be part of the end game meta, when, to be honest with you, that's not necessarily as important. And I'm going to talk about what I think that you should be focusing on here as a beginner player. I don't think it should be focusing down on beginner teams, but I think that there's some other areas that you should be focusing down on as a player here. So let's jump into it. The first thing I want to talk about is that beginner content is actually fairly easy. A lot of those things have become incredibly easier now because of this new meta, all these characters that are being released and introduced. They kind of wipe away the old meta, but I don't think that as a beginner player that you need to try to focus down on trying to get these fully synergized teams. Now, there are some good beginner teams that you can start out with, right? There's Wave 1 Avengers. You get those characters fairly easily. You get Captain America through the login calendar and Thor through the login calendar. My understanding is that through the Strike Pass, you are also able to get Black Widow and you're also able to get Hawkeye. And then Hulk is currently in the achievements, so you'll be able to get him that way as well. So fairly easy for you to be able to land that character. Yes, there's the Defenders, right? There's Iron Fist and Luke Cage. They're relevant now for endgame content. And I do want to say this too. I think that we put way too much emphasis on investing into characters that are going to be relevant for endgame content, because let's be real, if you are a beginner player, endgame content probably doesn't matter to you that much because you are a beginner player. So the chances of you getting to endgame content, it's going to take you a while. So I really don't think that should be an emphasis on how you invest into your roster. You should more focus on, yes, the current meta right now, what is good right now, as opposed to focusing on what is good for endgame content. But yeah, there's some good teams. The Defenders are good. Wave 1 Avengers are good. Sinister Six can be helpful for some early villains campaigns. I think that those are some good teams that we could talk about here, but I don't think that you need to focus on fully synergized teams. I think that the best approach, honestly, and the questions that you should probably be asking is, what are the best individual characters that I need to be able to do the content that is currently available that I need to be able to complete, right? So questions should be, hey, what are the best arena characters right now? What are the best characters for heroes? What are the best characters for villains? What are the best mystic characters? What are the best cosmic characters? Instead of trying to focusing down on what are the best teams, I think what you should be focusing on or asking questions about are, what are the best characters that are available to me, so that I can actually do this content. And there have been a lot of characters that have been introduced. There have been a lot of characters that I know a lot of this is RNG, right? Getting the right characters. Some of this is RNG, but there are some free-to-play options that you have available to you that are part of the current meta right now. So for instance, there's Gamora, there's Nebula, there is Sabretooth, there is Wolverine. There are some characters right now that are good free-to-play options that you have available to you that you can use to get through some of the content that is available right now, arena raids, also as well. And then the next question should be, okay, well, how far should I invest into this character? Because I want to stop here and make this point that just because you're investing into a beginner character right now doesn't mean that they have to be ready for that. They have to be viable for endgame content. Yes, I would recommend investing into characters that are relevant for the current meta now if you can. Of course, there are going to be characters that you're probably going to have to invest into even though they aren't a part of the current meta, but you should always ask the question, hey, how far should I invest into this character in order for me to be able to get this content done? I think that that's incredibly important question for you to ask. Which kind of segues into my next point, which was basically whatever beginner character you invest into now doesn't mean that you have to use them later on. I would say let's not waste resources on bad characters too. There are certain characters that are in this game that are just not great currently right now. Now Nebula and Gamora used to not be great, right? But now they're good. But I would wait until they become good before you invest into those characters. So there's certain characters that are on your roster like Aim Infector, like the Ravagers, Even I would say even Kree minions. Like, you don't really need to invest in the Kree minions that much in order to be able to unlock Nick Fury. There's certain characters that are on your roster that are not great that you don't need to spend time investing into. Don't waste resources on those characters, but a good character, you should invest into good characters, but understand that those characters that you are invested into now may potentially have a ceiling. So you invest into that character to a point, right? So you invest into the character and you bring them up to a level, a gear tier level, where they can complete the content that you need them to complete right now. Don't over invest your resources. And because I think that really kind of the which one, like I said, invest into the character to a point where you need them to do the content right now to be able to compete in arena, to be able to finish the villains campaign, to finish the heroes campaign, to finish whatever campaign, whatever content, to do the raids. Invest into those characters to the point where they can actually do that content. And then if they can't do the content at the investment level, then maybe you need to put more investment into them, or maybe there are some better options, which is good to be able to stay connected to the community and to find out what those good options are. But like I said, ask those questions with your alliance, ask those questions in Discords, ask those questions on Twitch, YouTube, whatever, so that you can know which characters are the best characters to invest into. And then the second part of this is really kind of makes the reason why beginner teams to me don't matter is that you got to pay attention to the evolving meta currently right now. New characters are usually better than the older characters. Right now, there is RNG involved in some of you being able to actually get some of these new characters, and I do absolutely understand that. However, there are times where there are characters that as a newer player that you could potentially get access to, like Cersei, who's currently a part of the event campaign right now. There are other characters that have been released before that, like Deathpool, that have been available to earlier, maybe mid-game, earlier players, mid-game players. Secret Avengers, some of those characters were available to earlier mid-game players. I would always say that it's better to invest into the newer characters that are introduced, because those newer characters typically tend to be better than the older characters in Marvel Strike Force. Now, some of those old characters could get reworked, and some of the older characters, by the way, are still the better options, but that's why I said ask the questions as to what you should be invested into. And they're, like I said, rework characters, and they're also these OP characters, right? Like Silver Surfer, Kestrel, characters like that are insane characters that really do provide and hold a lot of value. And I would definitely say that those are good characters for you to invest into, because they are currently a part of the meta right now. Maybe they won't be a part of the meta later on, but they're a part of the meta right now. So if you do get your hands on those characters, and I'm saying that more for those who are willing to spend money, because Silver Surfer is really kind of behind a paywall right now. And Kestrel, if you get lucky with letting her in the premium orbs, obviously you're going to want to invest into that character as well. But I really thought it was important. I'm trying to think of if there's any other reason why I would say beginner teams don't matter. I just feel like there's too much emphasis sometimes placed on beginner teams and building out these synergized options, but then ultimately at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It's about individual characters that can provide value for your roster. The beginner content is not that challenging. You can get through it, with just landing a couple characters, doing some minimal investment in a couple of these characters, getting it done. Then later on, getting some of these new OP meta characters, or getting some of the new characters that are in the game that literally just wipe through the older content. It ultimately, at the end of the day, tends to not matter that much if you kind of just do what I'm talking about right now. But curious to hear your guys' thoughts. Hopefully this was a helpful video for you. If you have any questions, always leave it in the comments. Always want to hear what you guys have to say here. But listen, I don't think beginner teams matter that much. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I think it's about investing into these individual characters that can provide value for your roster here. Ask the right questions. People are willing to help. Discords are willing to help. My Discord's down below. Link your questions there. Join my Discord. Click on that link and join my Discord there. There's a phenomenal community that's ready to help. So please, like I said, seek out the help. But I do want to talk about this, man, because I just feel like it was really important. Beginner teams don't matter. You don't need to focus on these fully synergized teams. Focus on these individual characters that can help you to get through the content that is necessary for you to complete here in Marvel Strike Force. But until next time, guys, thank you so much for watching. Y'all be blessed, and y'all be safe. Woo, baby. Beginner teams. Beginner teams. Don't need them. every single character that's new is super OP. Beginner teams.